Just win the entire event.
Yeah, just take the event.
I've said it from the beginning, I've always bet on Impact, and I would feel good betting on Impact going into this as well. We've seen, that interesting sort of maybe an upset happening off stream yesterday with Youngsung versus Impact. Youngsung managing to take it, but I think Impact, they bounce back so well as a team. They adapt, and I think they have a very, very solid chance of definitely being in the grand finals. If nothing else, but I would bet on Impact to take this. They just looked so powerful yesterday. You and I, at the end of the day, nerding out a little bit over things that they were doing, both as ranged players, watching a player like Dizzler just execute his strategy so well. His movement is on point. He's playing so optimally, so clean. And at this point, all of these teams have demonstrated that the lane environment no longer affects them, that they're just treating this the same as always.
We got the drafts ready for game 1 of our first match of the day. Impact going to be running that Thorn Lucy Jumong. We get to see the Gaddafi Lucy, one of my favorites, as it's a character I've really grown fond of playing. On the other side, we got Red Canids with that standard, or I guess I shouldn't say standard for Red Canids, the double range comp with the Paloma. How do you think these comps are shaping up, Crooks?
I think it's very smart by Impact. Again, we were wondering if we would see a little bit of difficulty from the side of Red Canids, as they've shown a couple of their more interesting comps at this point. I think being able to watch Red Canids games on your own time, being able to sit in the audience, it's watching that wonderful stage we have here, getting to see Red Canids do a lot of what they do is actually really, really strong research for a lot of teams. And the way that Impact is approaching this is very similar to the way that SSG approached it. That being said, the level of coordination, the level of execution from Impact is sort of on another level, in my opinion, from any other team here. Even Youngsung, who they lost to, I still believe that Impact, their standard of play is some of the highest we've ever seen in competitive Battlerite, and I think I like these picks a lot. The Thorn is going to be able to move around the backline very well. You see, the issue against Red Canids a lot of the time is sort of breaking that wall, against the Fortress comps. You can't let them set up and play their own game, and Thorn has a great in. That immaterial space burrow just allows him to insert himself into the team whether you like it or not, and I think that as a feature is great, of course, backed up by some really strong Jumong play that I'm sure we're going to see from Vague here. I really think Jumong is the perfect ranged hero to kind of wage an assault on this Red Canids comp, the Ashka Varish Paloma that we've seen already. So I like the picks here, absolutely. And then Lucy, of course, is a counter to Paloma.
Yeah, it's interesting. Gaddafi seems to be the only Lucy that we see have success. What do you think it is about this player that allows him to succeed with a character that, nobody else has been able to?
I think it's a combination of how he plays as well as how his team plays around him, right? You have to create a lot of space for Lucy. You have to put Gaddafi into advantageous situations so that he can then use the full suite of Lucy's kit, that clarity potion, the barriers. He can use them all on his teammates to prop them up, because we see a lot of the times when Lucy's able to get ran at, the Lucy starts to have a lot more issues and a lot of their resources have to be spent on themselves rather than their teammates. So I think Vague and Dizzler do a great job of making space for Gaddafi, but of course Gaddafi, a very, very smart player. The way he positions is absolutely clinical. If you're a support player, you need to be watching this guy play, because it is the peak of consistency. It's just so optimal. The way he stands, the way he moves around the map is really phenomenal.
Yeah, even the other peak Lucy players like Clarity, sometimes you'll see make a misstep. Like we saw him play against Thorns yesterday and get pulled in occasionally, putting himself in a really precarious situation. But it seems like when I watch Gaddafi play, it never happens. And whether or not that's a result of either his allies playing with a lot of pressure and making room for him, or it's just him positioning perfectly, watching him play is really how you should play as a support. If you're just learning Battlerite, just like copy and paste Gaddafi's style, as hard as that might be, and try to work like this guy does.
Yeah, he has such an open mind approaching the game too. You'll see him change his Battlerite so much. He understands the different characters so well, the way they all work together. It's just incredibly impressive, and all of Impact is like that. I think if you weren't watching last night, you need to be watching right now, because we're in for something really, really special here. I think the level of execution is going to be great, and of course we've talked a lot about Impact, but we've seen the level of execution on Red be really great as well yesterday, and the way that they play their comps is great. So I think if there is somebody that can put the screws to Impact a little bit in terms of being flexible and having that high level of execution and team play, it is Red Canids.
So looking at this draft, I'm a little bit concerned for the Varesh. So of course Varesh having a lot of success with Red Canids, but how do you think it's going to fare against what Impact is bringing to the table? Because they have Clarity Potion, they have the Thorn Barb Tusk, they have Burrow, they have Black Arrow and Prowl on Jumong. How is he going to land Shatters?
It's going to be very, very difficult. Impact's comp, essentially every single one of these characters on the side of Impact has a favorable matchup into Varesh. You've got Thorn with the strong initiation, the Thorn pull. Essentially on Varesh, you're going to have to counter that Thorn E that's going to come out to try and entangle you. If you get hit by that, you're going to be in a really, really rough situation, maybe even requiring another side. And then, of course, Jumong needs no introduction against that Varesh matchup. He's so impressive with the Rain of Arrows.
Yeah, well, we'll see if we're right or whether or not we're wrong. Red Canids versus Impact coming up right now. Dragon Garden Knight is our map in this game, one of the best of 5, our first of the day. Rain of Arrows going to start things off. Veg eating a hand of judgment, very unfortunate, but a nice M2 hitting the root and the pull onto the Varesh. Great start here for Impact, Crooks.
Yeah, it's exactly as we saw. We see Aklo just not really being allowed to play the video game. He's having such a different time interacting with the Thorn, and Dizzler has an ultimate all ready for the orb. Love the willingness to expend it there. Aklo really just willing to throw out those shadows to try and harass Dizzler a little bit, as once again, Dizzler with that God Hand being very, very difficult for him to deal with. But he's taking a decent chunk. I like Aklo's M2 usage. I like the goo offensively by God as well to push them back.
Ooh, a beautiful Infernal Scorch is going to deal a lot of damage to this Thorn, though, and the Barbed Husk comes out. He barely is alive here, Crooks. The barrier was dished out onto him as well, and it provides him just enough time to have the burrow once again, but he's going to die to that crush, and Aklo taking the orb with that one as well.
Incredible. I think a bit of growing pains from Impact there, pushing the advantage of the Thorn a little bit too much, and Impact farming their ultimates so fast, but it just feels like the value that they eventually got out of it wasn't that high. They spent their energy very fast, very loose, trying to get in there, and Red Canids punished them incredibly hard.
Yeah, you mentioned, and I heard you get a little bit excited when Veg popped off that ultimate before the first orb spawned on the Jumong. Like you mentioned, though, the ultimate spend didn't quite get as much value as you would have hoped. The energy in general for Impact just seemed to not have the highest impact.
Yeah, you know, it was a little bit interesting, the momentum of that round, because it was a rough start for Red Canids. The way, in particular, Aklo was shut down completely by Thorn, as well as allowing Vague to just open up on him with that Jumong damage. Dizzler did a really good job at the start, but Red Canids actually able to turn it around, I think off the back of some serious Ashka ultimate punish as well.
Oh, that counter proc, very fortunate there, allowing Aklo to reposition, but you know who's not so lucky? Ruben. He gets pulled in there and eats a panic from Gaddafi, and another very strong start here for Impact. The Hand of Judgment, it was applied onto the Varesh. He ends up being okay here, and Impact, they're going to secure the first orb.
Yep, look at that trap placement from Fake as well, catching Flum, making it so hard for them to heal. They've spent the other side. Unfortunately, they dink the Varus counter, but at this point, they can start pushing them so hard. Impact are in a very, very dominant position on Dragon Garden Knight here. Jumong can really start to take off. Great EXM2 by Veg as well to put the screws to Ruben here. He's going to set up that firewall, find that 1 3-second window where the matchup can be a little bit advantageous, and unfortunately, Red Canids are going to be able to sneak that orb.
Yeah, dude, that Volcano managing to steal the orb. Very beautiful placement for Ruben understanding where the orb would be. He gets the other side here to get him out of the entangling roots. The Paloma ultimate's going to be dropped as well. And the dead roots, the panic going to cancel out that dead roots. Dizzler not able to get it off. The Infernal Scorch not getting quite as much value, but Dizzler, the damage is starting to add up now, down below half. The dead roots is available, but the other side is the answer. But who isn't so fortunate is that Paloma getting caught in that goo.
Yeah, the dead roots with the goo, absolutely brutal there. I love the follow-up on the Paloma. And once again, we've seen Red Canids have a little bit of trouble protecting this Paloma in the same way that a lot of other Paloma-centric comps have had a little bit of difficulty in this tournament that we've seen here. Impact exploiting Tex really, really hard. We've seen Tex be so slippery in the past, surviving with just fractions of his HP, but Impact's punish a lot of the time is just on another level. And in those areas where one team might have struggled doing that last 2% HP damage to Tex, Impact will always get that optimal punish and be able to push through that barrier.
Absolutely, and a great recognition of the situation they were in. Impact dropping that double ulti, the double large AoE, understanding that only other side was available. Tex only had so many answers to save himself and his allies, and at the end of the day, he couldn't quite get out of it. Vague starting this one off with another Rain of Arrows, landing an M2 right into the Varesh, but the Inhibitor's Guard going to negate almost all of that damage. Ooh, not so fortunate, though. Immediately after, Aklo gets pulled in, eating an EXM2 now. Wow, this pressure from Vague is unrelenting.
Yep, unfortunately, he had Phantasm on him, so Aklo didn't take too much damage. Tex, unfortunately, locked down, which means Dizzler gets to do a lot of damage, and a nicely timed barrier by Godovan. Once again, Impact with all the orb control in the world. Great trap placement, double Rain of Arrows. Vague more than willing to square up against Aklo here. He should be looking to proc his counter, but he actually holds his counter, taking a decent amount of damage on Varus, looking for the big play. The other side has been used, and now Red Canids going to be pushed back. I like the firewall timing by Ruben as well, trying to buy them some space.
Yeah, a good firewall, but it's only going to last for so long, and now that it's down, looking like the red team's going to be able to secure the orb. The Crush, not quite in time. The Paloma ultimate going to heal up Ruben and Tex, but still, the damage is coming out from Impact here, and the advantage is pretty massive. But luckily, there's an other side available to solve that goo problem. The Infernal Scorch going to get no value either. This is not looking so good here, Crooks. Red Canids being backed into this choke down bottom, and they might just get ran over here.
Yeah, look at the way Impact separates these guys. They recognize that's so important. You can't let the three just set up the fortress. You want to keep them over on different sides of the map whenever possible. Aklo, he's out of cooldowns. They have no other side available, and Dizzler's just going to finish him off with that big, meaty third Thorn M1.
Yeah, Dizzler, the ultimate from the Jumong, going to finish off this one. Vague fighting the kill on Tex. Ruben, all that's left is not going to last much longer, and Impact, they lost the first round pretty dominantly, but these next two have gone swiftly in their favor.
They look much more stable. I think in the first round we saw something that is a little bit of an unfortunate trapping for Vegas every once in a while. Maybe he plays his hand a little bit too far forward, the aggression, in particular from Dizzler that round, to be fair. The Thorn aggression feels a lot more measured now. He's playing a lot more of that utility style to lock down the side of Red Canids and give Veg the space to pop off with Jumong.
2, 1, fight.
Round 4. Impact with a 2-1 lead in this game 1. The Rain of Arrows once again starting things off. Veg playing this very systematically, understanding how he should open up against a Jumong. He reads that counter as well. Not going to hit it. Dropping more Rain of Arrows, the double there. Ruben going up, playing aggressive. The Firewall going to block that panic. Beautiful play from Ruben to start this one off.
Yeah, I like the use of his utility there, just setting up behind Firewall. And look how much space he's bought his team. Red Canids are actually able to move forward. Nice counter from Aklo. However, the Dragon Slayer is available. Dinks Paloma, not too much damage here, but now Thorn's going to have an opportunity to make something happen. Maybe not. I like the defensive burrow out. Impact recognizing they have that tempo advantage. They're just going to want to hold mid. The Orb's going to be coming up. They just have to be wary of the crush from Varish.
Orb going to be taken by the Thorn M1. Dizzler sitting on the full ultimate. The Dragon Slayer is going to be dropped as well, and the Lucy Goo, all of the energy being spent here from Impact. Not going to get too much value from any of those abilities, though. Now Aklo, he's going to eat a panic, send him back with his allies. A beautiful pull here from Dizzler. Gets to the Infernal Scorch is the answer, and Veg's starting to get pretty low here. Fortunately, Impact is going to be posting up mid. We'll see if they're able to rescue Dizzler here, as he's kind of found himself out on an island. Whether or not he's able to make it back with his allies might determine who wins this round. He might get caught in this Paloma ultimate, though, and he does! The second tick of that Ancestral Spirit going to find the kill on the Thorn. We'll see if they're able to find the Paloma. They do with that Lucy Goo. Now all that's left, Ruben running away, mounting up. In the meantime, Aklo going to be dropped on that Varesh. Beautiful play here from Impact to secure this round. And even though they dropped Dizzler, they understood they could get the cross kill on Tex, and they'll take that every day of the week.
Man, you got to give it to Tex, showing no fear in a bad situation with no HP, just more than willing to go for the kill, drop that Paloma ultimate, find that last amount of burst. Ultimately, it didn't lead to a 1 round, but I love the ballsy Paloma play, the very aggressive Paloma play, sort of the pattern with which Tex plays. It's something we saw from the Korean player Clarinet.
Yeah.
Being very well to sort of hit that aggro button and just go combat Paloma mode. I love watching it.
It's so interesting watching these lesser-known teams, because how we've understood Paloma in general as of late is that she's very defensive, and you use all of her abilities as such. But these Palomas from Korea and South America dropping their ultimates so aggressively, getting a lot of value from that ability. This time, however, the other side going to be forced out so early by a beautiful entangling roots from Dizzler and a pull. Things looking very good for Impact as they've managed to post up, hold out the blue team in that choke. This first orb is spawning. We'll see if they're able to get it to make this positioning worth it.
Yeah, and Ruben's having a really rough time. Dizzler and Veg just laying damage into him over and over again, forcing his cooldowns. The space has been used. Tex holding on to other side for a bad situation, but Aklo is going to waste his counter. And now I think you're going to see Impact move a lot farther forward here. I like the Judgment debuff. Oh, the Paloma ultimate follow-up on Dizzler as he is able to sort of squeeze his way out of there. Aklo with the Varish ultimate, relatively low impact, ends up in the middle of the enemy team as Tex is going to get pulled forward, and Veg is still able to land that EXM.
Yeah, this is looking so good here. Impact, they're managing to get the... Oh, actually the orb stolen by Red Canids, but still the HP advantage is about 15% in favor of Impact, and the Paloma is getting zoned out so hard, Crooks. She's not being allowed to stick with her allies, and Ruben just trying to reconnect that Dragon Slayer. Gonna barely whiz. Beautiful footwork from Tex to avoid that one. The Infernal Scorch is dropped, and now Dizzler's getting so low, but they are going to find the kill on Tex. In the meantime, Dizzler going to finally go down. Now in a 2v2 situation, healer and range DPS versus the double range DPS. We'll see if this Hand of Judgment allows Ruben to find a kill. He does have that ultimate. Got to look out for the big Infernal Scorch here, Crooks.
Yeah, look at the way Veg is pushing Aklo around, forcing that R with the Jumong EXM2 and immediately following up the Rain of Arrows, the Petrify into the Jumong M2 for another great burst of damage as Aklo once again caught in the double Rain of Arrows. That's Jumong versus Varish in a nutshell, man. You just get caught in those double rains, such a huge chunk of your HP. Aklo basically just got scammed for about 25% of his HP.
I absolutely love the way Impact played this. They understood the situation they were in a dominant situation given the comps that were being run in that 2v2. The Jumong plus Lucy just playing so patiently, understanding that the Varesh can't really aggress. He can't really go in, and the double Rain of Arrows is just finally going to finish him off there. Veg, with a perfect game understanding there, allowing him to take that round.
Man, in the way that we saw some teams like SSG struggle against comps like this from Red Canids a lot, being forced to often play the game of Red Canids rather than enacting their own strategy. It feels like Impact is just in the driver's seat this entire time.
Yeah.
In particular, this Jumong pick, you know, we've seen a lot of different Jumong players in this tournament sort of match this character up against Red Canids, thinking that this is a hero that can really take advantage of their playstyle, farm those ults, get that damage hit, but Impact seems to be the only one really able to implement that to its fullest extent.
Aklo, he's got that Phantasm on him, but he's still taking a pretty unfavorable trade here. And wow, Dizzler's positioning, walking around that wall. He's finally going to start to get punished for it. Brought down to about half, but he quickly backs up and secures the orb with his team. But it's actually stolen. Red Canids managed to take that one. Firewall going to run out. Ruben finding himself behind the wall. Not so high on energy, not close to the ultimate to reconnect with his team. He's just trying to M1, M2, connect back. He's going to try to keep the damage to the Ancestral Spirit. Gonna get so much in the Infernal Scorch immediately after. Dizzler just gets popped.
Yeah, really great setup there by Red Canids to really go for the punish. An incredible closeout to that round, and it is looking like they're going to be able to steal another one away from Impact here in this first game.
Yeah, Godov likely going to go down here. He's trying to dodge the M1s from both Tex and Ruben, but he's not going to be so lucky. Going to finally fall on Veg. All that's left, not going to be long for this world. An absolute beautiful play here coming out from the blue team. Red Canids, they might have lost 4 rounds in a row, but they are going to strike back, showing they're not out of this one just yet. And I talked about that Ashka positioning. He got himself in such a strange position with that Searing Flight behind the wall to the right side, but he managed to reconnect with his allies and capitalize on a beautiful ultimate from Tex, finding the kill on Dizzler.
Yeah, once again, I love the willingness to just hit that button on Paloma. Dizzler playing a little bit far into it, and they had the Lucy barrier for him, and they had the Barbed Husk, but it didn't matter. Along with that Judgment amplification supplied by Aklo, they were able to just blow through all of those defensive cooldowns that were applied to Dizzler.
Veg missing his abilities to start this one off, but he does bait out Inhibitor's Guard. The Entangling Root's not going to hit either. All of Impact kind of within their abilities, but they are still holding strong in this mid position and able to force out another side. What was looking like a bad start, quickly looking like a great one for Impact.
Yeah, Ruben unfortunately sitting in that weakened trap while trying to set up behind Firewall. Red Canids have just been denied all of their resources. Look at Aklo having such a difficult time. They're dedicating so much lockdown to him from the Thorn and the Jumong. There goes the other side.
Oh,
the immediate follow-up on Tex, noticing that cooldown is down, tries to pull Aklo back in. Ruben defensively ults to reposition, but now they're at such an HP deficit, and this is where Vague really starts to take control of the game.
Yeah, up top, Aklo taking quite a bit of damage, and Tex taking quite a bit himself. All of the players on the side of Red Canids having to play a little bit safe here. Can't really approach through this choke. A big pull onto the Ashka and a panic going to force out that other side. Beautiful play here from Impact, and with that, they should likely get this next orb spawning in 4 seconds, as without another side, Red Canids can't really aggress Crooks.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult for them as Impact, once again, just setting up at mid. Another defensive sort of positioning goo by Godov is going to come out to push Red Canids back. There's no other side available. Here comes the Dragon Slayer as well, nailing Aklo. The positioning Thorn ultimate as well is just going to push them back as Impact just suffocating their prey.
Yeah, they're way caught back in their spawn. Red Canids have been unable to find themselves in mid at any point in this round. Another orb going to go to Impact here, and Entangling Root's immediately broken on Ruben. That panic, it's not going to hit the other side, and Inhibitor's Guard stacked. Not very fortunate here. And Aklo, he's just getting ran down with these arrows from Veg. Rain of arrows over that firewall, not letting the Ashka have any space. This is looking so hard as Impact is just completely choking out Red Canids. Another Infernal Scorch is going to be dropped, but it's going to get no value. The Varesh ultimate, however, is going to get a ton, and Godov gets popped. Tech's going to go down immediately after here. 2v2 situation, looking like it's going to be favoring Impact because there's a 20% HP advantage and mid-control favoring Vague right here.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. Varesh, of course, has a good amount of sustain and tankiness to himself, gets his counterproc here, but Dizzler should be absolutely fine. Look at the way he's playing. Manages to evade the Ashka ulti from Ruben as well, blocking the map off as he's got to be careful. He doesn't want to put Vague into this 2v1. Vague does have a huge amount of HP to work with as Aklo sitting one shot away from death. Procs his counter as well. The M2 follow-up, textbook there from Vague. Dizzler's going to survive more than likely as well as Vague just goes for the kill, and Impact are going to close out the first game of this best of 5, 5-2.
Very clean play from Impact to finish this one up. They did a great job understanding the situation they were in, and Vague, like you talk about so often, capitalizing on the weaknesses of his ally. When the Thorn started to get pretty low, he just posted up on that Jumong and laid down M1s from the sky, finding the final kills, and with it the game 5-2 in favor of the red team.
Yeah, you know, so often in previous Red Canids games, we saw them sort of play their comps, play to their outs, and while they are so good at it, it felt almost to me like a piece of the enemy team's play was missing a little bit, that the punish wasn't quite as optimal. They didn't push them quite as hard. You know, there were always rounds in like the SSG series, for instance, where it felt like SSG had a better idea of how to punish Red Canids and how to push them for playing a very, very defensive comp like this. In fact, most of what they do, very defensive, either with that double support, with that triple range, for instance. But it really feels like Impact, their punishment, their gameplay is just so on point that they're able to sort of break that final wall, that last little reserve that Red Canids has set, and Impact is just able to push through. And I think this game is a great indicator of how strong as well Jumong is as a hero against a lot of Red Canids comps. I think he just pushes them too hard. Double Rain of Arrow is very difficult for a lot of their different sort of staple hero picks to play against.
Something that definitely stood out to me, we actually have a replay of that game. We get to see a little bit of what happened. But something that stood out to me was that oftentimes we didn't see Impact go in and overextend and get punished for their aggression like we saw often with Proster when they played against Red Canids. We see the way they play here in this replay. The Thorn gets a little bit low, does actually end up dying to the Varesh, but that's very emblematic of how they just played the match as a whole. Yeah. That round, it didn't work out for them, but in general, Impact, very in and out kind of play style, like kind of like a wave, where they would go in, apply pressure, and then smartly back out and secure mid and take orbs and control the resources. Yeah. And they just choked out at the end of the day, the blue team.
Yeah, it feels like when Impact figures out when to sort of press that gas, when you hit that accelerator, you give them an inch and they take a mile every single time. And we see that here. The punishment was just so severe, pushing them constantly. It's really interesting to sort of see the Impact snowball start to get rolling and to watch teams try desperately to fight back. But it really feels like, you know, between the pressure of Vague and Dizzler and just the consistency of God, you kind of just get your head held underwater.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we've seen game one. We saw the first comp of the blue team, Tex, Aklo, and Ruben, not quite work out in their favor. Do you think they're going to switch it up? Do you think they're going to instead break out that older Blossom that we've seen yesterday?
It seems likely. We've seen that Red Canids does have a couple of sort of staple comps. They may be a little bit strange, but they do have staples that they like to sort of rotate between. And outside of that, we haven't seen a terrible amount of variation. So I think it does seem likely that we're going to see sort of that Blossom Older Thorn. If I had to bet, I would bet on that. I think that would be an interesting pick against Impact. We're going to see what they're going with. I think it's highly unlikely they're going to run it back, but I guess we'll have to wait for the draft phase to see.
Right. Now, do you think that with the change coming out from Red Canids, do you think that the comp from Impact should change, or do you think they're kind of fun with what they were running?
I think it's the same thing. I think you look at Dizzler, and he played such a textbook round on Thorn, a couple of little mistakes. I think he wasn't expecting Tex to be as willing to just drop the big smack with Paloma as he ended up being. Right, yeah. But I think Dizzler has looked so good on Thorn. I think you're willing to mirror match those Thorns in almost any situation because Dizzler is just a star player in his own right. And then, of course, Vague, getting that space to pop off on the Jumong. I really do think Jumong, a potential solution to this double support as well. The potential to punish Thorn so hard with Bear Trap, double Rain of Arrows, just farm energy over and over again, everything from rebounding Seeker's Arrow through the entire team that's going to stay very clumped up. I think the Jumong pick is great, and I think the Lucy is fine as well. Yeah. Goo punish against this team can be very, very potent.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. Of course, the Jumong so incredibly good against Blossom. Like you mentioned, the ricocheting arrows with the EXM1 going to land like every time off of that tree if he chooses to go for it. And Vague, a player definitely aware enough to go for that kind of thing. I can't help but feel like he's just going to run this game over. I'm really excited personally to see these Thorns. Ruben absolutely blew my mind yesterday with his Thorn play, and Dizzler's looked no worse. So these, in my mind, are kind of the two best Thorns that I've seen play in a very, very long time. Whoever's going to come out on top, I'm not sure.
Yeah, absolutely. They play very different styles. I think Ruben, he's seen a very defensive kind of utility-focused Thorn, more willing to throw cooldowns from a very long range to sort of feed into that defensive playstyle of Red Canids. Dizzler's playstyle a little bit more reminiscent of somebody like Crazy. Wants to get in your backline, heavy M1 pressure over and over again, farming energy, throwing those ults.
Yeah, absolutely. But in general, these Thorns playing so very differently, like you mentioned. We'll see who comes out on top. Game 2 of this best of 5 coming up right now. Mount Arazde, the location of this map 2. Tangling Root's going to start things off. Vague being pulled right in where he doesn't want to be. He finally is able to farm up enough energy for that Prowl and heals up thanks to Gaddafi. Wow, not so lucky though, as Tex is just getting absolutely ran over by Dizzler Crooks.
Yeah, you can see already Impact coming in here. It's so clear that they have a game plan. They want to pressure these supports so hard. They're not even going to mess with the Thorn. Both of these supports very low on outs. Aklo already forced to use his space as they've switched positions with Impact a little bit, but that actually favors Impact. Another nice bubble placement from Aklo is going to force Vague to reposition here, but it still looks like Impact very firmly in the driver's seat, even after they were able to CC Dizzler. The pull not able to fish anything as Red Canids does manage to get the orb, but this is where the Jumong playground really starts to take effect.
Yeah, this is starting to look pretty good here for Impact, but you know, the HP pools are actually favoring the blue team here. Red Canids pulling ahead. The older, he's posting up. The Blossom healing himself up too. Dizzler, he's going in with that Dead Roots and going to get quite a nice amount of damage, but the tree is there healing up Tex, making sure he doesn't take all that much. Ruben dropping that Dead Roots, going to try to take the orb. It's going to stay here, not going to be taken by either team just yet, but finally that Chrono Flux coming out from Aklo, going to allow his team to take it.
Yeah, and it seems like Red Canids is actually stabilized a little bit here and are looking so good in this round. The sheer healing ITF. You know, Thorn so heavy on the self-sustain himself. You've got the Blossom AoE tree healing combined with Aklo, of course, on the older, the ability to bail people out, gain yourself positioning with that bubble, and Red Canids actually looking very strong. I love the play from Ruben to ult across the choke of the map, keeping Impact away from the center. I love it.
Yeah, the one thing you don't want to do is allow that Jumong to steal the orb with the Stray M2, and that ultimate, that Dead Root's going to negate that completely. Speaking of ultimates, Older dropping his own, but it's going to be answered by the Goon. They get a nice chunk of damage onto Aklo, but Dizzler ends up taking quite a lot more. The ultimate coming out from Veg, but it's not going to get nearly as much as he needed it to, and now entangled is Gadov. Everybody getting pretty low here on the red team, and meanwhile, Red Canids are sitting pretty.
Yeah, it feels like they just have so much HP pool to play with right now. Is once again just going to reset for the mid. Very defensive play style. The way that they sort of stay grouped here, absolutely insane. They have so much discipline in their own right, and the same as Impact. The rain of arrows should be coming out from Vig just to start now, push them back a little bit. The grip going to come out from Dizzler in an attempt to split it up, but Red Canids takes that one too, up 5 orbs to 0.
The Dead Roots going to be dropped. The Dance of the Dryads is the answer. Up top, so low is Veg, and he's going to get popped. Red Canids, this double support comp with the help of Ruben Thorn looks so good. That opener was impeccable from Impact. They got a beautiful double pull, forcing Red Canids to be in a situation they desperately couldn't afford to be in. But at the end of the day, it just didn't matter.
This comp stabilizes in such a bizarre way, dude. Like,
yeah, it's so weird.
Watching it play, you can have a really unideal start, and the way Impact played the start there was absolutely great. The punish was so good. They came in with a game plan, and they executed it. But unfortunately, these comps from Red Canids, especially with the double support, the massive AoE healing from Blossom, if they're able to stabilize, the value starts going so far out of the enemy team's favor.
Boom Bloom Seed gonna be thrown out at Dizzler. Not gonna land though, but what does land is a bunch of stray M1s, and suddenly a third of his HP is missing. Doing no better is Gadov already being forced to roll Crooks, and wow, the HP pool is already 25% in favor of Red Canids. This is unreal.
Yeah, these traps are okay from Veg, gonna try and zone them out a little bit, and we've seen Red Canids now actually in a relatively familiar position. Aklo gonna be forced back between the Dead Roots and the M2 from Jumong. Dizzler,
God,
gonna get rooted. A double Dragon Slayer though. The pressure is huge. Aklo caught in the goo as well. Older is gonna be going down here. Nope, just barely able to get out, getting his Q proc, but Dizzler's on the hunt.
The Dance of the Dryads is going to come out, but at the end of the day, Aklo is already too low. Gadov with a beautiful ultimate, securing the kill on that older. Tech's going to be the next to fall, and Ruben, all that's left, he's going to pop off that Dead Roots, but it's going to get not nearly enough value. Red team going to secure an orb. Impact likely going to take this round. The Thorn's fallen.
The way Impact are running Red Canids here, it's so clear that they realize at no point can we ever allow these guys to stabilize. We can buy an advantage early, especially against this double support comp before they're able to build energy. If we can blow an early space from the older or Blossom, it puts us in such a favorable position. But man, watching these games, I'm convinced it is only Impact as a team that would be able to run Red Canids this hard, because their level of execution is so high, and even then, it looks a little bit sketchy sometimes.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you're convinced Red Canids might be able to just cling to the edge of the cliff.
1-1 is the score. Moving into round 3. Veg being zoned out by a Bloom Seed. But Dizzler gonna get a nice entangling route onto Ruben to slow down the roll of the blue team to start this one off. A beautiful pull onto the Lucy. Gadov not in a desirable situation, but even worse off is Aklo getting chunked down to already half.
Yeah, very smart. I think Veg in particular putting a lot of attention on just punishing the older, putting the screws to him, making him suffer for using that space or using that EX bubble as well, having no protection for himself. Barb Husk is going to come out on Ruben for relatively high value. Nice double M2s from Veg, just farming even more energy after the good tree placement. And the Dead Roots is going to come out for Dizzler for not too much value.
Yeah, the Dance of the Dryads is going to get nothing as well. This older ultimate, no value. So much energy used on the side of Red Canids, but they're going to get nothing for it. We'll see if they can aggress and take this middle orb, but Crooks, I'm not sure they're going to be able to. And Impact, they take it.
Yeah, Impact looking very confident here, just setting up both supports on the side of Red Canids, looking a little bit more weak as Tex forced to use his tree. Nice bubble placement from Aklo is going to keep him out. The Dead Roots from Dizzler and the follow-up goo from Godov going to knock Ruben in. He's got the burrow, but he's got no more tools at his disposal, and this is when Impact, especially Vega, is going to start his assault on the backline.
Ruben manages to make it out of that one without taking too much damage. Relatively unscathed is the Thorn of Blue. The orb, however, is going to go to Impact. Once again, Aklo is going to need to get huge value from this ultimate, but he's going to get none as the Barbed Husk is the answer. Dance of the Dryads is a huge damage onto Godolph. The Clarity is available to heal him up just a little bit. The barrier is going to keep him alive. But wow, Godolph is getting so incredibly low now. He's now got the goo. We'll see if he can make something work with it.
Yeah, and this is bad. Red Canids are starting the siege. This looks awfully familiar. ITF, the goo is going to come out from Godolph to confirm that.
Wow.
Huge Dead Roots by Dizzler is just going to bisect the side of Red Canids. This is gigantic. This is how you win a round like this from Impact. The follow-up on Aklo is gross. They want that kill. He's going to finish up Tex first. Dizzler just putting on the man pants. That's home. Here we go. This round's fine. It's under control, boys. We got this.
Dizzler popping off with that huge Dead Roots, getting so much value. Two characters had no way to get out of it. A beautiful recognition of the situation they were in from Dizzler, and he's just going to take that round right back. And like you mentioned, the siege had started. Red Canids had made their way back into mid. They took a couple orbs, and it looked like they might just steamroll the round from that point in a fashion that we've seen from Red Canids game after game. But Impact, they are a different story. You cannot treat this team like any other team in this tournament.
Positioning is such kind of an abstract concept in battle, right? You know, the way you work around your teammates there, and the way Dizzler cut Red Canids in half with that Dead Roots was masterful.
Caught in this choke. Red Canids can't quite make it in just yet. The Chronos Flux is going to be dropped, getting out a nice amount of damage onto Dizzler, but even more so Aklo. That seems to be the story of the start of these last couple rounds. Aklo having a very hard time approaching mid. Impact, they're going to secure an orb as well, Crooks.
Yeah, and they're set up perfectly. Dizzler even baiting the early burrow, the follow-up here on the Tex. He's stuck in the Dead Roots. EX tree, not even going to save him, forced to space as well. And this is when Dizzler is just going to continue the assault. A nice entangle on him, but they want to play even more aggressive, hold Red Canids to that choke. Nice EX space to relocate everybody, but they're going to see the orb at Impact.
A beautiful EX space is going to negate most of that damage, but at the end of the day, the orb does still go to Impact, and with it, a significant advantage. 20% in HP is the lead for the boys in red. We'll see if they manage to keep that up. There is an energy advantage on the side of Red Canids. The goo and the Dead Root's going to be dropped, getting almost no value. Now down bottom, the pressure is coming out onto Dizzler. Getting even more low is Ruben, though. He's going to use his own Dead Roots, but not get quite as much value as we saw in the round prior. And Impact, they managed to take yet another orb.
Yeah, and look at this again. They manage Red Canids retreat again, pulling in Tex, forcing the space. Once they get out of that spread entangle, Impact are going to be looking to push through this choke, but got to be a little bit careful. A nice EX space attempt by Dizzler, trying to style like Ruben, and it's not quite working out. Vake going to get pulled in, take a decent amount of damage, forced to prowl as yet another orb is going to be coming up. Impact are going to prioritize this pretty heavily, and they're going to take it.
The fourth of the round going to go to Impact here. The double rate of arrow is going to zone out Red Canids, and the Dead Root's going to get a lot of damage. Tex getting so incredibly low, playing so far back. Ruben getting entangled as well. So much pressure coming out from Impact here, recognizing that this is their chance. They might be able to find the kill here, but Aklo has his ultimate. It's going to land onto Godolph. However, the Clarity Potion is there, and immediately after, Ruben going to fall. Tex and Aklo, the double support, all that's left for Red Canids. The ultimate from Aklo is going to land onto Veg, but they simply don't have the damage at this point, Crooks.
Man, Red Canids is so difficult to punish. You saw even there, Ruben still almost living through all of the support utility that Red Canids has at their disposal. The way they cycle these cooldowns is so nice, but Impact is just so clean.
Yeah, absolutely. They're playing so flawlessly, so clean, and with it, they're up 3-1 in game 2, looking to claim this second game of the best of 5. Of course, whoever wins this match will move into the winner bracket finals. Definitely something both of these teams are wanting to do. Now, what is it that Red Canids needs to adjust? It seems like Impact is getting a lot of orbs. How can Red Canids change that up?
They need to try and stop Vague from just doing Jumong things, and it's going to be difficult. His hero pick is so successful here, but the way he opens up with early aggression onto Aklo every time, you see it here. Look at him taking a page out of Dizzler's book that we saw last night, moving forward, M1 after M1 into Aklo, forced to use a bubble on himself as his teammates just get dogged on by Dizzler over on that Thorn. Vague gonna get pulled in a decent amount of damage on Jumong as well, as this is actually looking very good for Red Canids all of a sudden.
Yeah, Red Canids have made their way into mid off the back of Tech's aggressive play here. I'm not sure if they're gonna be able to get this orb. It's close, but they will get it, and with it, they have a 10% HP advantage. Dizzler's trying to negate most of that. The intensing roots onto Aklo, and then immediately starting to M1 the other Thorn. The dead roots is gonna come out as well, but if you look at Dizzler's HP pool, that was such an unfavorable trade. The ultimate gonna come out from Aklo as well. Not gonna get any value, but it does force the roll, and so many abilities being used on the side of Impact here. They're gonna have to play a little bit safe here and definitely secure this orb if they want back into this round. But the Dance of the Dryads is going to ensure that blue team takes it. It is actually taken by Impact. Blue team managing to get back to this side. They are reconnecting and healing up here with this double support comp. They're stabilizing, but Impact, they've actually clawed their way back into this round.
Yeah, the EX space for Ruben in an attempt to save his teammates combined with that Dance of the Dryads from Tex was so nice, just a spacing tool, but it seems like Impact have been able to shove them off again. The orb is going to be big. Impact are not going to get it. They were trying to do something cute to bait it out, but Tex had that charge down one.
Tex dropping that tree down bottom for his boy Ruben. There is a dead roots on board of the blue Thorn. Both Thorns actually sitting on a full ultimate. Dizzler gonna pop his off here. The ultimate coming out from Vague as well, but it's not gonna get nearly as much as he had hoped for. But still, just the overall damage from the Jumong gonna be laid into Ruben, and they will find a kill.
Yeah, great punish. Just noticing once again, Ruben out of cooldowns, his teammates too pressured. I think that really is the secret that's Impact have stumbled upon. You need such strong punish to do it, but the idea of just pressuring the older, in particular, forcing the Blossom into unfortunate situations and playing around those defensive cooldowns like the Blossom True, which can block abilities with the massive AoE healing as well. Impact are just playing to their outs so well. And I love the build from Vague. I've been noticing it a little bit more. No stun on that M2 from Jumong, instead opting for the additional damage on space. We've seen him go with the aggressive space usage on Jumong multiple times to kind of rattle off the double, M1 hits over and over again, being able to crank the equivalent of pretty much 4 M1s worth of Jumong damage very fast. He recognizes it's not about stunning Red Canids, it's about dealing meaningful damage that sticks.
Absolutely.
And I love the Jumong build here. The adaptation from Impact is very smart.
We'll see if they can make it work in potentially this last round of Game 2. A great start onto Aklo from Vague here. Doesn't take too much damage himself and puts out quite a lot of pressure. He's farming up that energy and launches an EXM1 off, and a nice panic from Gaddafi ensures that the pressure from Impact can continue. The Gust going to reflect that entangling roots, and this orb is going to spawn. See who ends up getting it. It actually goes to the blue team.
Yeah, and a decent Thorn ultimate is going to buy them a little bit of space, but now Dizzler in the middle of the enemy team looking to farm up his own energy. Great usage of pull there to work Tex over a little bit closer to Vague. Vague has those double spaces. The older ultimate not going to come out from too much value, and Tex forced to use space as well, holding his ultimate for that additional iframe for Dance of the Dryads. He's going to get pulled in the enemy team. Nicely played on that. The Thorn ultimate's going to come out. They know Tex is incredibly punishable. He's trapped in. He's locked in, and the Dragon Slayer's going to come out, but not do too much work.
Yeah, it's actually caught by Aklo as well, and immediately thrown back into Vague. The dead roots coming out from Ruben as well, and so much damage from this goo. If they can kill the Blossom, will be huge, but they don't end up killing her. Aklo has the ultimate, and then it's returned onto the Lucy, and they get the kill on Gaddafi. Beautiful turn, but at the end of the day, Tex is still going to fall. This is definitely still doable as the dead roots coming out from Dizzler deals quite meaningful damage to Aklo, but he's so low on that Thorn, the red Thorn. If you sneeze on that boy, he's going to die. The EXM2 is not going to quite finish off the kill as the Barb Husk is there, but the Burrow will. Dizzler is down, and with it, the blue team will take this round.
What an insane barn burner at the end of that round there. The back and forth was ridiculous. It looked like Tex was in so much trouble, but once again, Red Canids able to prop him up for just long enough. Over and over and over again. I don't understand how these guys survive so well. I do understand. It's really great cooldown rotations, very tight usage of timing, smart usage of the healing and the defensive cooldowns as well. And Impact pushing their advantage yet again, but for once, Red Canids able to stall them.
Yeah, Red Canids doing a great job there, making the trades happen when they needed to, finding a kill on Gaddafi off the back of Aklo's beautiful ultimate. We'll see if they can keep it up here as they're down 2-4 in this game. Still quite a mountain to climb if they want to take Game 2. A great start onto Dizzler is going to help that out, though. Gaddafi also having to barrier himself. Quite a lot of things going wrong here for Impact.
Yeah, Vague managing to iframe that Petrify. He's going to get locked down. Ruben going to let the Thorn ultimate rip. Very nicely played in Red Canids. Look at that. They're moving into mid. This is a little bit new.
The Entangling Roots coming out, trying to slow down Ruben is Dizzler, but it's not going to slow down the roll of Red Canids quite as much as he would have hoped, and so much damage coming out onto Dizzler down bottom. The burrow's used as well, and now this is quite a precarious situation. The older ultimate not quite going to be in time to predict the ending of Dizzler's ulti. The orb, it does go to the red team too. The Dance of the Dryads as the EX space is going to help get out Tex, but that actually kind of worked in favor of the red team there. That Dance of the Dryads would have been quite meaningful.
Yeah, they're okay with that. That actually cut a lot of Red Canids' big, meaningful ulti pressure, but I think Ruben had a very difficult choice to make there, and I think ultimately he did make the right choice to try and relocate his team. A smart play by him. The orb is going to get grabbed by Ruben, confirmed by Tex. Very nicely played. So they do have a workable amount of HP here. Good pull on Ruben as well. Barb Tusk used his space as well. He's going to use his space right now. He's out of cooldowns, but Vague not really in a position to do anything. I love the way Aklo's moved up.
A Dance of the Dryads once again going to come out and force out the burrow from Dizzler. Vague eating these EXM1s from Aklo. He tries to return the force with a rain of arrows, but it's not going to have quite the same amount of pressure. The Lucy Goo is going to come out and secure the orb, and oh my god, the HP of Aklo just disappears off of the back of a beautiful Lucy Goo. Godof's not only going to secure the orb, but also a kill.
Yeah, insanely well played punish with the Lucy Goo there onto the older. Just very, very nice.
Red Canids, 2v3 situation here. They're going to need to find a kill onto Godof. They get a panic onto him off the back of a nice gust, and a Dead Roots is available, but he misses the pull and the Entangling Roots. This is quickly starting to fall apart here for Red Canids. The Dragon Slayer is coming out as well. It's not going to hit. A double Petrify, though, ensures that they find the Blossom kill. Tex is going to fall, and with it, Impact will likely take game 2.
Yeah, it's looking like they have it all but locked down. Ruben's going to give it his all, but it's looking like Impact are going to be moving up 2-0 in this series. Once again, Red Canids able to find a little bit of space in some rounds, but in general, just getting stuffed by the pressure of Impact, and they don't seem to have a solution for this particular comp by Impact. The Jumong from Vague putting in so much work. The Thorn, so aggressive. Dizzler putting on an absolute clinic. His pulls, his utility, looking just as good, if not better, than Ruben's yesterday. And then Godov, of course, on Lucy. I think the trademark of a really good Lucy is a lot of the time, we don't even notice that Godov's in the game.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's just there, but then you think back to all the amount of healing, all the barriers he's had, and they've just been so impactful, and you've never noticed that Lucy was there because he's just never been in trouble.
Yeah, you like never notice that he's there until he drops a goo that wins the round.
Exactly.
Just like in that last round.
He had a couple of those, yeah.
Yeah, he positioned so perfectly, and then at the end of the round, stole it with the orb take and a kill onto Aklo. Impact just playing very beautifully in that round. And now, Crooks, we kind of find ourselves in a scary situation for the boys of Red Canids. Those were their two main comps. Those are the only comps we've seen from Red Canids in this tournament so far, and they haven't had any success against Impact, only winning 3 rounds in both of those games total. What are the Red Canids going to do?
I'm not entirely sure. I feel like at this point, with your back against the wall, and we've talked about it before, sort of the role of comfort in an environment like this, running it back with a comp that you just feel is more comfortable, because I don't think Impact is going to change. I think Impact is too smart about the draft. We saw them yesterday. They are a team that likes to flex around a little bit, mess with some stuff, see if it works. Even in a tournament environment, they don't necessarily mind it. But I think we're in day 2. We're in the semifinals here. Impact came here to play. They don't mind trying to clean this up 3-0, and there's been no indication to me that this comp from Impact won't just keep working. Now, in terms of what Red Canids will play, I would dare say that the Ashka Varish Paloma comp looked maybe a little bit more promising than what we just saw, particularly in the later rounds of the game we just watched. It really felt like Impact had that downloaded. They knew what to do against that double support comp.
Our next map is Ormond Knight. How do you think this map pick is going to affect the comps that Red Canids have run?
I'm not sure if it will. I'm not sure how dependent the comps that Red Canids run actually are on maps. What I will say is that Ormond Knight's chokes are a lot tighter than the chokes we've seen on really successful maps that Red Canids has succeeded on. Things like the Uraz maps with sort of those chokes that where Red Canids can play as a team together, use the walls for line of sight against even ranged heroes that would otherwise crush them, like Jumong. Ormond Knight, though, may be a little bit too far in that direction. Those chokes may be a little bit too small to the point where you might have 2-3 people standing in a potential rain of arrows. So if I was Red Canids, I'd actually be very afraid of this map. I don't think it necessarily favors them.
Now, something we talked about yesterday was that the Ashka, kind of actually a sleeper strong pick on this map, simply because of the way Volcano works with that AoE and the tight chokes that come along with Ormond Knight. Do you think it's likely that we see the Ashka pick as a result? And is it good enough to combat the pressure that Jumong can put out with the rain of arrows on this map for the same reason?
I don't know if it is, and the problem with sort of a triple range comp that a lot of high-level players will tell you is, on paper, it looks very interesting, right? It's very difficult for the melee player to get in, but often you find yourself just seeding the middle of the map
Yeah,
over and
yeah.
over again, because you don't physically have the pressure necessary to move up against a team that's at your competitive level, you know? And I think if they choose to play a triple range comp on Orman Temple Knight, you're going to see that happen just tenfold. You know,
Yeah.
despite the fact that, yeah, Ashka may be able to buy them some space with the Volcano well placed in those different corridors, I just feel like the chances that you get worked into those early corridors, push back into your spawn in just a really unfavorable position, get denied all resources, just way too high.
We have a replay from the last game here. We get to see a little bit of how Impact is dominating up against Red Canids and how they're playing and what's making them so successful. And it is this Jumong. That double rain of arrows forcing out so much damage onto the Red Canids. And you kind of talked about it. This seems to be the answer against what Red Canids bring to the table. He just does so much. And even though in this round he might have fallen, at the end of the day, that rain of arrows pressure against that double support comp, against the tree and that black arrow, especially with the extra damage from the Battlerite, the Jumong's just putting out so much pressure.
It's things I love about Battlerite, where we can look at sort of the macro strategy of the game, right? The game at large, but then you can look at little decisions that these players are making. And I think that one example of Vig's Battlerite choice there is really smart. And for a lot of people getting into Battlerite as a game, you can look at what Vig is doing in this game and really understand how good of a player he is, that he adapts to this situation. He's thinking through the comp he's playing against, and he's realizing that a lot of times that 4 damage, that effective extra M1 that he can machine gun out onto a target on a very, very low cooldown is just super high value, especially since the situations where he's needing to use those iframes, especially with all of this pressure that God of is giving him with well-timed barriers. He just doesn't need to utilize the space as well. We do have the drafts as well, and we have the God of Pestilence, Dizzler on Thorn, and Vague on Varish.
The God of Pestilence. Yeah, I mean, I saw the look on your face when you looked at the draft, and it was pretty much how I felt about it. A lot of changes going into this map, but once again, it is an Orman Temple Knight, so a lot of changes warranted. A very different map than most of the rest in the pool, and we're going to see Vague on the Varesh, something we haven't seen in quite some time, since the days of the Varesh Esmo +1 comp from Impact. It'll be very interesting to see how this works, and on the other side, Ruben's going to be bringing out that Jamila, and his Jamila looked insane yesterday.
Yeah, the problem is, though, talking to Impact a little bit last night, that's what they said, is we see somebody pick Jamila, that's fine, put Vague on Varish. I feel like raged heroes with a counter at the disposal. We've already seen Destiny be very powerful against Jamila. I think in the same way, Varish, incredibly strong against that Jamila pick. It feels like you can just stuff the Jamila completely. You have a counter for a big ability. Shatter is an absolute nightmare for Jamila to deal with. If you get that debuff, you're going to be slowed. You're going to be silenced over and over again. So
we'll see how it works going here into game 3. We'll see how this Varesh pick works out against the Jamila. Like you mentioned, very strong counter pick here coming out. Ruben not having the most ideal of starts either, as his counter is not procced. Not what you want to have happen to start things off as Jamila. He's going to find an in cap here, and the Varesh going to get moved quite close to the enemies, but still not too much meaningful damage done.
Look at them reading Ruben's counter just over and over again. He's having such a difficult time finding the necessary tempo with Jamila. They read the 3rd counter of the game. He's forced to use his in cap defensively to try and hop back to his team, and Impact just with complete mid-control. This is what I was worried about on this map too. Got up with that Pestilence, the bouncing fear just feels like he has so much control in these hallways.
He had an ultimate before the first orb spawned on a Pestilence as well, really showing how this round is going for the red team here. And down bottom, Ruben's HP pool tells so much more of the story. He's gonna get hit by this Queen Fear too, and he's just getting bodied, Crooks.
These guys are absolute surgeons of this game. This comp from Impact already looking so strong. Ruben smacked completely when he tried to enter the enemy team. Just nah, man, shut the door. Not right now. I don't have any time to hit your counters or anything like that. Aklo gonna try and channel this Varish ultimate in vain. Not gonna get too much value out of it. Stuck without any HP, and wow. What an absolutely just steamroll round from Impact.
The Entangling Roots gonna finish up Aklo here in Texas, the only one left surviving for Red Canids. We'll see if he's able to make something happen, but I see the more likely outcome going to be that he will fall, as he finally will. And man, that was an incredible round. You mentioned it. They did not have the time of day for Ruben. They saw that counter from a mile away, and they did not hit any of them, giving him no space. And then immediately prior, Godov had an ultimate before the first orb. That's unheard of as a Pestilence player. Like, you hear about stuff like that on Jumong, but the fact that Godov is using all of his abilities so efficiently to get maximum energy from them each, to have the ultimate so early, really says a lot about his play.
Yeah, I love the picks here from Impact. The comp is just so effective. It seems like they knew Red Canids would kind of default to this in the third game, and it just seems like they have an answer for everything.
Yeah, it's like they predicted the Jamila pick coming out on this Orman map, as it is what Red Canids did yesterday on Orman Temple Night 2. They saw it coming, and Tex, he's not having too good a time here. That tree dropped a little bit late. He'll eat that Entangling Roots. This orb spawn is going to go to Impact, likely off the back of a crush. It will go to Impact after a lot of fight from Ruben. Ruben, he's getting a lot more damage in this round, though. Much better of a start for him.
Yep, he's definitely looking to be popping off a little bit more. Got a lot more control on the Thorn. Forced to disengage a bit. Now Dizzler being pushed back by a nice barrel.
Beautiful. Oh my God.
Ruben, really nice damage. Dizzler got to be very careful who got up doing his best with the burst healing for Pestilence is going to allow him to fall back a bit. The Shatter. Oh, the Infest mitigating quite a lot of damage, but he has the Judgment applied on him right now. Fakes Ruben's counter yet again. Impact falling back, but they're still dangerous.
Yeah, Impact is still a team you have to look out for. The Inhibitor's Guard was spent to keep Dizzler alive. Dizzler only having 50 HP to work with. Kind of a scary situation. The Dance of the Dryad's going to go out, get a lot of damage onto Veg, and Impact, they have to play in this choke crooks. Whether or not they get this orb might tell the story of this round, and they're not able to get it. Red Canids able to take it, and likely with it the round. The Hand of Judgment going out on Gaddafi too. Just so much unrelenting pressure from Aklo and his Varesh.
Yeah, and they're looking just so strong already, and Red Canids definitely in more of a comfort spot here. They do manage to finish off Dizzler, not able to get anything done here, and a pretty promising round. Answers from Red Canids, I think in particular the pressure from the side of Ruben here. He was able to have a much higher tempo round, you know, getting his counter hit a little bit early. I liked his follow-up a lot as well, along with sort of those damage bursts that Aklo were supplying him. The recast with Jamila's Deathmark can hurt pretty bad.
Yeah, you talked about the pressure that Aklo was applying too. Earlier on in that round, in about the middle of it, there was an ultimate that came out. He hit all three and immediately a Shatter after. Beautiful play from Aklo that I can't help but wish I could see again. He played it so flawlessly, landing all of his abilities and maximizing the damage output onto Dizzler, and Dizzler's Thorn just got absolutely erased in the middle of that round.
Yeah, he had a rough time. I like how they're coordinating the punishes a lot more. It feels like they're waking up a little bit.
Nice panic, starting things off. Gonna take a lot of damage on Aklo. This time, though, the counter is procced on Ruben, and he's going to get quite a bit of damage out, and Dizzler getting chunked so hard. The in cap, the damage going to be mitigated by Gaddafi's Infest, but down bottom, Veg's not so fortunate, Crooks. No damage mitigation onto him, and he's going to lose half of his HP.
Yeah, it feels like Aklo is really starting to pop off, in particular, playing that artillery Varish so well. He's holding on to that ultimate as well. Jamila, he's on the run a bit. Look at them just pursuing Ruben as he follows the damage from Veg.
Oh, God, they're going.
Are in on top of the dead roots. There you go. That'll make a kill happen.
Impact dropping everything on the drop of a dime, understanding that there was an opening there. The Varesh ultimate from Aklo, it's looking for something, but Crooks, it's getting nothing. This orb is spawned, and whether or not blue team can get it might tell the story of whether or not they can come back. They do get it, but it's still looking like such an uphill mountain, or such a tall mountain to climb. Ruben, his counter is procced at just the last second, a little bit mistimed by Veg there, trying to be cheeky and get that perfect timing. He's not going to get it. Varesh likely going to fall here. Ruben, all that's left, the dead roots, going to probably take him out here.
Pretty textbook round again from Impact. It looks like their punishes are really starting to warm up. Maybe a little bit of an adaptation necessary with this comp. I think in particular, it seems like they're just ignoring the Jamila in a way that we haven't seen a lot of teams do it. They don't seem super concerned about Ruben. As long as you aren't hitting his counter, of course, it seems like you can kind of just ignore what he's getting done. Ruben, to his credit, has done a great job positioning in a way where it's very difficult to ignore him. You know, you want to be standing in front of your teammates, forcing the enemy team, daring them to fire an M1, fire a projectile, you know, because you'll absorb it with your counter, really get that snowball rolling with Jamila. But so far, it feels like they've been able to stuff that melee pick from Red Canids fairly well.
Yeah, and Ruben, he's having such a hard time applying that Phantom Cut. Of course, that huge debuff dealing 26 damage after his counter's procced. One of the most important things about Jamila is to get your counter proc so you can have that happen. But Ruben, when your counter's not procced, really seeing the amount of damage that you'll lack. Varesh getting a little bit of damage here. Aklo having to R out, and Dizzler, understanding that Aklo doesn't have much more to work with, is going to just stay in, 1v2ing up top, and it's now going quite unfavorably. Dizzler losing half of his HP.
Look at that energy farming, though. He's got so many resources to deal with. Got up here to back him up. Red Canids, unfortunately, able to sink that orb as Veg, playing so aggressively with the Varus, tries to channel the ultimate, gets it canceled once, but the follow-up here onto Ruben, the damage is going to cripple him. All four charges going off. That guy's impact so much space.
Yeah, Ruben taking so much damage from that and also wasting his counter in the process. The Scarab's coming out from this Pestilence ultimate. We'll see if he can land a couple. Doesn't manage to get too much value out of it, but Aklo down bottom might still go down. The fear going to come out. That second bounce so beautifully played from Gadov.
Look at that.
Man, we call him the god of Battlerite for a reason. A beautiful play there. The ultimate from Veg is going to get no value, but Aklo and company are still so low. They just need to sneeze on Aklo in order to get the kill. He's going to pop off his ultimate, look for something, but it's going to get a whole lot of nothing. Dizzler, his own ultimate is going to get a whole lot. Going to claim Aklo's life with that dead roots.
Man, I love that we were able to catch that little finesse by Gadov.
Yeah.
That double bounce.
Great.
It's so nice. I think a lot of players might have it in their mind that Pestilus may be a little bit unexciting to watch as a hero, but man, these little mechanical, consistent plays from players on the level of Gadov are so fun to watch, and his management of space with panics has been so great. I also pay attention a lot to his queen placement, interfering a lot with what Aklo is trying to do, not only to block damage, but to also threaten fear, because he'll run that thing out at people just immediately to threaten that panic. You can't stay within the radius of the queen ever. I love Gadov's space control with Pestilus.
Yeah, and Dizzler also, he had that 1v2 up top. It went very unfavorably for him, but like you mentioned, that energy farm that he got rolling, all of the energy rolling in, and his dead roots, they were so high impact that round, Crooks. He got the kill on Aklo. He also negated completely one of Tex's Dance of the Dryads. Beautiful play from Dizzler and just impact as a whole. This round, starting off just as well as the entangling roots and pole going to land on Aklo. Aklo, he's not getting any space this game, Crooks.
Yeah, they're really just shutting him down completely. They've recognized this guy's kind of a beast. You know, he can do a lot of damage. We need attention on that Varish. Tex in particular, look at that. Nice space to avoid the pull, but now Tex has to play a little bit careful. He's almost got the Dance of the Dryads on deck. I like that he's trying to harass Vague with the Boom Blooms a little bit more. Well played on the Blossom ulti, but Dizzler gonna go in with the Dead Roots. Not able to dodge the Varish ultimate, not able to shimmy out of it. He's gonna take a lot of damage from it. Nicely played by Aklo.
Yeah, that Scarab, though, coming out, healing up the Varesh, or not the Varesh, but rather Dizzler's Thorn quite a lot. Really nice play from Gadov, minimizing the amount of damage. He took in a great Barbed Tusk, going to negate most of the damage. Vague down bottom, losing his trade handily against Tex. Impact, though, they get the orb.
Oh, man.
A nice panic there, gets Aklo out of this fight and allows the red team to stabilize for a second. But Gadov healing up Vague, going to completely leave alone Dizzler, and Dizzler is not having a great time, Crooks.
Yeah, as you noted, Vague playing a little bit risky this round, going for that sort of sketchy 1v1 against Tex and losing it quite a bit, as Blossom is so difficult to 1v1, especially as a ranged hero in a vacuum. Blossom gonna let that rip, and the punish onto Dizzler. Actually, nope, that's not there. Oh, no, Dizzler was the one who went down. The punish is insane.
Dizzler gonna fall. A lot of damage coming out. Gadov, he's gonna use that ultimate, see if he can apply the Scarab, but he's looking all but dead here as he has to burn the Infest as a result of a great Boom Bloom seed. Tex playing so beautifully, and that's one of the things that Tex as a player has very much impressed me with. His Boom Blooms have been amazing. He seems to always get value out of the stun. Whether or not he lands the stun, his placements are impeccable, and they really control his zone of space well.
Yeah, I think a lot of these players, they approach hard CC abilities like that a lot differently than sort of your average Joe Battlerite player, right? The way Tex thinks about not only which character he wants to try and lock down with that Boom Bloom, which character he needs to force an out from, but also what target they go on afterwards when one person is CC'd. We've seen Dizzler do the same with the Entangle. Anyways, Red Canids answering back 3-2 still in favor of Impact, but I think in particular, Impact stumbling a little bit when they're trying to put some attention onto Tex. Vague trying to take that 1v1 against Tex, I really feel is highly unfavorable. Blossom, so difficult to try and 1v1 as a ranged hero. She can block projectiles with the tree. You've got the weakening M1, which basically just means you win a trade if you land that as Blossom. You've got the Gust. It's just very difficult for Varish to actually make an attempt to deal sticking damage in a one-on-one scenario.
It's definitely not something you want to do. Another thing you don't want to do is proc the counter of Ruben so early. A lot of abilities forced out on the side of Impact as a result of it. Infest as well as the counter from Vague being used. His counter getting procced here, though. He has that judgment, so he has to play a little bit safe. However, the Phantom Cut again applied. Ruben is tearing up this round.
Yeah, he's had a very, very strong start. I think the counter hits in particular. When you see Jamila able to get her counter hit, the pop-off that usually follows afterwards can be kind of disgusting. The recast is nice. Just harassing Dizzler, putting a lot of attention on yet another Phantom Cut. He is able to iframe that with the Burrow, though. Definitely a strength of Thorn. Vague gonna dodge the Dance of the Dryads with the R as well, but now he's a bit out of position. His Impact gonna try for the orb, but Red Canids have an opportunity to take it, and Vague very nicely played. He did the math.
Yeah, he did the math here. The Dead Root's gonna come out, not going to land on the Blossom, but he does eat an Entangling Roots immediately after. But Dizzler might go down here. He ends up taking so much damage. The Barbed Tusk is there, but Crooks, he's getting so low. He's able to burrow out. Now Vague down bottom being the recipient of Aklo's ultimate. He will die. beautifully played from Red Canids here.
Yeah, these collapses from Red Canids have been really beautiful. I love the way, in particular, Ruben has finally started to find his stride a little bit on that Jamila. He's enabling his teammates so much, and the follow-up has been great so far. Tex playing very aggressively with the Blossom. Aklo as well, playing kind of in melee ranges. Varish buying them a lot of space, and Red Canids fighting back very solidly.
Yeah, and something I've noticed about these last 2 rounds is the impact Ruben is having has been amplified by a great magnitude, getting a lot of his counters procced and a lot of the Phantom Cut being applied, just forcing out a lot of abilities. How do they need to handle Ruben in order to win these next rounds on the side of Impact?
I think they need to set Dizzler up for success a little bit more. They need to stay close, put Ruben in a bad situation if he doesn't manage to get his counter hit, because right now, Dizzler's having a very difficult time sort of outvaluing Ruben in that melee-on-melee matchup. We saw Thorn always used to struggle against Shifu. I think Jamila, in a lot of ways, is very, very similar.
Ruben's counter, not going to get procced here. Has to back up as a result. A nice tree placement, though, from Tex is going to negate the Hand of Judgment from Veg. Still, at the end of the day, the damage has been done to Ruben. His counter's procced, and the Phantom Cut is applied to Gadaf, but not too much meaningful damage was done as a result. And now Impact, they're looking like they're going to take the orb, and they will.
Yeah, not a bad start for them. They really need that energy to get online. Godav sitting in the back, sort of pocketing Dizzler. Love the infest timing to mitigate all of that damage from the ultimate by Aklo.
Oh, God!
And they answer with their own. The Dead Roots, the pullback in the EX tree doesn't prevent any of this damage at all, it feels like, as Aklo Rs forward very aggressively trying to rejoin his team. Ruben doesn't get his counter hit, and this is where Impact is really going to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, a beautiful pull here from Dizzler also brings Aklo back into the fight. Definitely not where he wanted to be, and Ruben was no healthier. This round fell apart in what seemed like an instant going in favor of Impact. They might be able to find a kill here off the back of this Dance of the Dryads, but at the end of the day, Impact just had too much HP to work with. Very nicely done by Impact to ensure they could get the maximum punish on Aklo there and take his life.
Yeah, great team play there. I love, in particular, Godov's positioning into that infest to mitigate damage. The answering ultimate from Vague, knowing that Aklo was completely out of energy. A great punish opportunity. The Dead Roots from Dizzler have always been great, not only for positioning, but to lock down part of the map. The pulls in have been brutal as well. And this leaves us with Impact on potential series point here, moving forward, knocking Red Canids down into today's lower bracket.
Yeah, of course, this is the 3rd game of this best of 5. Winner of this match will advance to the winner bracket finals, and Impact looking poised to do that if they can take one more round. Red Canids, we'll see if they can come back. Aklo going to take a little bit of damage to start things off here from Dizzler. This round quickly turning in favor, though, as Dizzler takes quite a chunk of damage.
Yeah, and actually kind of a bad start for Godov. They put a lot of heat into him. Varish amplification on top of those Jamila procs, and now Red Canids getting run down by Dizzler. He has an ultimate already.
Oh, the
Tex
Blossom!
Caught in the Dead Roots. Nope.
Not going anywhere.
Space. Not going anywhere.
Yeah, so much damage done by Dizzler. The Dead Root's going to secure that kill. A beautiful answer from Dizzler, understanding that the space had been used and there was no tree. Now a 2v3. Ruben's got no HP and no energy to work with. His Javelin's interrupted as well. And the EXM2 from Dizzler going to bait out that counter. Impact going to be the winners of our first match of the day.
And there you go. We've seen so many teams struggle against, in particular, the support picks of Red Canids, the way they play with each other, the very defensive play style, the way they stall and manage cooldowns, and Impact managing to crack that nut, it seems, understanding how to play around the supports, how to punish, in particular, that last round, Blossom just getting absolutely beamed after a sort of errant spacebar usage. The collapse from Impact on top of the effectiveness of their energy farming, just really solid play.
Yeah, amazing play from Dizzler there throughout this match, looking incredibly strong. And with it, Impact going to move on to the winner bracket finals. Huge congratulations to them. Red Canids, they're not out of the tournament just yet. They will still be in the lower bracket, facing off against the loser of Youngsung versus SSG. And you know, against SSG yesterday, they were pretty dominant, so they're definitely not out of this one just yet.
Oh, absolutely. If I was a team in the upper bracket, I'd be incredibly scared of losing that next series, because I think Red Canids, you know, they want this. We've talked repeatedly about how happy they look when they play on stage, how energized they are, how ready they are to just show up to land and show everybody what they're made of. And now that they're in a situation where they could potentially be in trouble, I think we're going to see Red Canids absolutely at their best, though I don't know how much variation they have to bring to the table. And I think for a team that's potentially playing against them, being able to study this series against Impact could be really valuable.
And we do have an interview coming up, but first we get a replay of that last game. The game so dominant from Impact, winning that one 5-2. We get to see how they did it. Yes. Eventually. Here we go. Nice damage here onto the Jamila, and Thorn breaking that counter, but they do still find the kill in return. A nice crush and some great physics onto the Thorn there. The Pestilence, Godolph going to eat that Dance of the Dryads as well. And Red Canids, in that moment, managed to find the pressure they needed to win. And we get to see the man who was destroyed by that Dance of the Dryads.
Hello.
Godolph, how's it going, man?
3-time Winners Interview champion.
Yeah, man.
Here.
I'm on a roll.
Yeah, you are on a roll. And I mean, I'm sure this feels like a good place to be.
Yeah, it does for sure.
Winning 3 times, you've now secured your place in the upper bracket finals.
Yeah.
Who would you rather face, Space Station Gaming or Youngsung?
Space Station Gaming.
Why is that?
Yeah, as I also talked about yesterday, I don't want to play against Jeter. That's simple as that. Like, it's not fun drafting against him.
Yeah.
It's just rough.
Now, Space Station Gaming, they have a couple of main comps they've run, and they don't deviate quite as much as Youngsung do. Do you think you have an answer prepared for what Space Station Gaming bring to the table?
I don't know if we have like a specific answer, but I think like if we just take the drafting phase like step by step, I think we'll come up with something good.
So when you approach drafts, is it much more like around what you want to play, or do you much more prioritize counterpicking your enemy?
We prioritize counterpicking the enemy for sure. We usually try to go with, like, based on who we're against, we try to find like a pick that we think is gonna be kind of all right against anything that they can pick, and then after that we just like go for each pick they do.
Right.
And try to predict what they're gonna pick next and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah. So Red Canids, a team that you just faced off against, and you beat them pretty handily. I believe they only took 5 rounds total in all against your 15.
Yeah.
What made you guys different than the other teams they played against?
We play a lot of different stuff. We play every character that they can play on a very high level. So like we know exactly what to play against them, and we just knew what to pick. Like we talked a bit about it this morning and stuff, and yeah, it worked out as we expected.
Yeah, clearly worked out as you won 3-0 in that best of 5. Godolph, once again, congratulations and good luck moving on today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we'll be moving.
Bye-bye.
We'll be going on to a short break here before we have our next game. Actually, cutting to the bracket real quick, we get to see how Impact advances here. We have Impact moving forward against Red Canids, and Red Canids moving down to that lower bracket, or the loser bracket. Youngsung and Space Station Gaming going to be playing up next to see who advances to the upper bracket finals. This is a crazy bracket.
Every single one of these matches is so spicy, and I think going into yesterday, full of uncertainty, full of back and forth, but I feel really confident today that we have the 4 best teams in the world in Battlerite here.
Absolutely.
Looking at these brackets, the way they match up, it's so difficult to call every single time. You see, even though Godov, wants to go against Space Station Gaming, it's so difficult to even make the call there.
Right.
It's so difficult to pick one of these as sort of that weak link that you wouldn't want. But man, if I was Godov, I'd be chilling right now because they look so good, and he's so laid back. Like I said, this is his first time in the interviews. He rolls up with the mic, hey, what's up?
And he's like, hey, what's up?
No problem. My 16-year-old just killed everybody. What's up?
Yeah. Well, Space Station Gaming versus Impact is going to be our next match. But before it, we're going to cut to a short break here. Don't go anywhere.